In the heart of Chicago, where the streets were always alive with noise and ambition, lived a man named David Parker. David was 32 years old, worked as a graphic designer for a mid-sized marketing agency, and was known by everyone as the nice guy. He was polite to a fault, always agreeable, and the kind of person who would go out of his way to make sure everyone else was comfortable, even if it left him exhausted and overlooked. David's problem wasn't kindness itself. It was that his kindness came at the cost of his own boundaries. He feared rejection, avoided conflict, and believed that if he was agreeable enough, people would like him, respect him, and maybe even admire him. But in truth, most people simply walked over him. At work, David stayed late to finish projects that weren't his responsibility. He volunteered to cover for colleagues who took advantage of his willingness. His boss, Mr. Thompson, appreciated his work ethic but never promoted him, seeing him as dependable but not leadership material. In his personal life, it wasn't much different. He had dated casually but often found himself friend-zoned. He bought gifts, ran errands, and bent over backward to make women happy, but the connections never lasted. Deep down, David knew something had to change. The turning point came one Friday evening at a cafe in Lincoln Park. David had agreed to meet his old college friend Michael Carter, a confident, outspoken entrepreneur who had recently launched a successful tech startup. Michael was the opposite of David. Assertive, self-assured, and unafraid to say no. They sat by the window, the warm glow of hanging lights above them. Michael leaned forward, sipping his black coffee, and studied David. "Dave," Michael said, "I've known you for years. You're smart, reliable, and creative. But man, you let people walk all over you. You're too nice." David frowned. "What's wrong with being nice? People respect kindness." Michael shook his head. "No, people respect boundaries. Kindness without strength isn't respect. It's pity. And you don't want to live your life waiting for scraps of validation." Those words struck David deeply. For the first time, he realized his behavior wasn't just about kindness. It was about fear. Fear of being disliked. Fear of conflict. Fear of rejection. Over the next few weeks, David began his journey of transformation. He started small. At work, when a colleague asked him to stay late to finish their presentation, David politely declined. It was uncomfortable at first, but the world didn't collapse. Instead, he went home, cooked himself dinner, and felt a quiet surge of empowerment. Soon, he joined a local public speaking club in downtown Chicago to work on his confidence. Standing in front of strangers, sharing stories, and receiving feedback helped him develop a voice he hadn't used in years. He learned to communicate clearly, not apologetically. One evening at the club, he met Emily Johnson, a school counselor from Evanston. Emily was warm, approachable, and had a natural confidence about her. Unlike his past interactions, David didn't try to impress her with over-the-top gestures. Instead, he was honest, authentic, and spoke about his journey of breaking free from being the nice guy. Emily admired his vulnerability and saw a strength behind it. They began meeting for coffee after sessions, discussing books, psychology, and personal growth. For the first time, David felt like he was connecting on equal terms, not from a place of desperation. But the true test came at work. Mr. Thompson announced a leadership opportunity for a new creative project. In the past, David would have stayed quiet, waiting for someone to recognize his potential. This time, he raised his hand. "I'd like to lead this project," David said confidently in the meeting room. Everyone turned, surprised. Mr. Thompson raised an eyebrow but nodded. "All right, David. Show us what you've got." Over the next month, David led the team with clarity and direction. He delegated tasks fairly, spoke up when ideas clashed, and didn't shy away from disagreements. When the project concluded, the clients were impressed, and Mr. Thompson gave him the recognition he had long desired. The transformation didn't happen overnight. There were setbacks. Some people resisted the new David. Old friends accused him of being selfish when he refused to always be available. But David learned that true growth meant disappointing others sometimes. One night, sitting at the edge of Lake Michigan with Emily, the city lights reflecting on the water, David reflected on his journey. "I used to think being nice would make people love me," he admitted. "But I realized people don't want someone who sacrifices themselves for approval. They want someone who knows who they are." Emily smiled. And now you know who you are? David nodded. I'm getting there. His story was not about abandoning kindness, it was about redefining it. Being kind while also being strong. Being compassionate without losing self-respect. And in that balance, David finally found freedom. From then on, David Parker was no longer the nice guy. He was simply a good man, confident, kind, and unapologetically himself.